Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March Business Applications NYC event of the year. We're joined today by members of the NYC Biz Apps user group and NYC Power Platform user group. I would like to welcome and thank Rishona Elijah from Barhead Solutions in Sydney, Australia, for agreeing to deliver a session on creating a no-code bot chat using Power Virtual Agents and Microsoft Teams. I also want to thank the event organizing committee, Mihir Shah, Aaron Fishman, Arun Vinoth, and myself, Eric Levin. Since we're a small group, I'm going to ignore, but if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. You can ask them in the chat window, raising your hand, or I don't know, maybe I'm muting yourself. So again, let's go give a warm welcome to Rishona Elijah. Rishona is a Power Platform Microsoft certified trainer for Barhead Solutions, and she runs many of the in-a-day programs for Power Apps, Power Automate, and the rest of the Power Platform products. She has been involved in the Power Platform community and recently presented in some of the larger community events, including the Scottish Summit and DynamicsCon. So let's give her a warm welcome. Rishona, you're free to start presenting at any time, and thank you again for joining our user groups.
All right, thanks so much, Eric, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here at your user group today. Maybe everyone here on the call, just give us a bit of a hello or something in the chat so we can see that you're here, and let me know if you have used Power Virtual Agents before, just so I can get a bit of an idea of, what the mix is today. I was planning on taking us into a bit of an intro first into it to sort of set the scene if there is anyone unfamiliar with it, and then we'll get stuck into Dataverse for Teams. So yes, we've got some hellos there. Everyone else, if you're just joining, just pop in a message so I can see, or give me a wave or something like that. All right, so don't worry, not too many slides today. I will get into a demo as well of what I've got planned for today. So creating a no-code chatbot with Power Virtual Agents. Let me know in the chat if this is something you have used before. Maybe you've built some bots previously. Feel free to share, but what I'll show us today is something that I've made for a demo for today, and I'll also show us another bot that I've created for my colleagues to use at Barhead as some examples as well. The great thing about this as well is how easy it is to do. So I don't come from like a technical or a coding background or anything like that. And as we know, with the Power Platform, it's all about no code, low code. And that's especially true for Power Virtual Agents because it's easy for anyone to go and pick up and start using. I also have a lot of fun with this stuff as well. So often in my spare time, I'm there creating chatbots. So what I'm going to show you today is stuff that I also made for fun. So why not share it around and show you what you can build with it. A bit about me. So Eric already introduced me, but just again, I'm based in Sydney. It's not too bad of a time here. It's only about 10 in the morning. And I'm excited to be invited to your New York user group. I work here as a Power Platform trainer and evangelist at a Microsoft partner called Barhead Solutions. So what that means is that I do a lot of events and training around the Power Platform in my day job. So if you've ever heard about things like dashboard in a day, virtual agents in a day, app in a day, I run that stuff for people as well as other training and events. I put out content around the Power Platform to show people what they can do with it, get excited about it, and then it's something that they can take back with them to use at work or for their own personal life as well. So I can see, Fernanda, looks like you've made a couple of bots as well. Nice. Good to see we've got some people already on it and using it. I also have a blog there. So I usually write some blog posts around tips with Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, and things that I learn as I'm using the tool. And you can also find me on Twitter as well. Feel free to also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm probably more active there than I am on Twitter, though. All right, so the plan for what I had for this session is I'll just first start off by talking about what kind of use cases you might want to bring for your Power Virtual Agents bot into Microsoft Teams. And then I'll show us a bit around Power Virtual Agents so we can get familiar with it. So we likely have some people here on the call who haven't used it before, so I'll just go into an introduction into how you can get started with it. And then I'm going to show you how you can build a bot for an IT help desk. So I've created a scenario here, and I'm going to walk us through what I've done and how we can get that to work with our Dataverse for Teams data that we have. Maybe let me know as well in the chat if Dataverse for Teams is something you have used before, if you've never heard of it, or maybe if you've been building apps and chatbots already on that too. Let me know. I'll then talk about the different publishing options we have for the bots, the ways we can use it, and exciting stuff. The last two that I bolded there are two newer features that you can do with Power Virtual Agents and Teams, which are in preview at the moment. So maybe you haven't come across the last two here. It's how you can mention your bot to talk to it in a channel, and also proactive bot messaging. So that means you can actually proactively get your bot to go and send someone a message rather than relying on someone to initiate the conversation. So before I get stuck into the demo, I'm just going to talk a bit here about, what you might want to use your bot for in Teams and why Teams really. Well, first of all, the Power Virtual Agents app for Teams makes this all really accessible. If you've ever used the full version of Power Virtual Agents, it's essentially the same thing as that, but it puts that experience and embeds it within Teams, which means that it's really discoverable. Anyone can go and find it in their Teams tenant, start building their bots. So it's a good way to get people introduced to it, get them using it. And then from there, if you don't want to use it in Teams, you can upgrade your license or whatever it is to deploy your bot to your other channels. But the beauty of this is that it's all included in your Teams license already. So it's a good way to for people to discover this and get their hands on it already. So these are the common things you usually come across. So with Teams, you might have a bot, let's say, for your HR processes. Maybe you might have your HR team. They get a lot of requests from people around things like what's the leave policy, what's the work from home policy. Maybe they want to do things like submit their leave. So rather than having everyone run off to that person, bombard them with questions all day, you can standardize all of this by creating a chatbot people can go to instead. So the good thing about this is they can get the response that they want straight away. It's the standardized answer. And as we'll see today, we can also personalize it. You can bring in unique information to the person talking to it in the conversation too. The example I'll show us today is around creating like a help desk system. So of course, your live one will probably be a bit more complex than what I'm going to show you, but the one I'll show you will be like you log a ticket for an IT help desk request, it gets sent to a Microsoft Teams channel. You can have different statuses on that ticket. I've tried out some cool stuff with also Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate using it as a calculator. So I know there are a few use cases, or perhaps there's some things you need to do at work that require you to maybe run things through a standard calculation. So that can actually be done by Power Automate as a way for you to standardize that process and enter the data in faster that you need as well. Approvals is a popular thing too, as well as having like an FAQ. Sort of like Fernando, you mentioned there around rights, policies and procedures. So a place or a central place people can go find your policies that are perhaps spread across different systems at the moment. And I just realized I should have clicked play on this video here. And this is just to show you what the bot looks like in Teams. So, you can pin it at the side. People can go and access it, kind of like you're talking to another colleague that you have there. And in this case, it's a bot that is going to go and do some things like set up a task in Planner for me, go and post a Teams message and so on. So of course, this is all powered with Power Automate that's doing all of these tasks there. But like you can see, we have the bot sitting there in Teams. Anyone in the organization can go and find it, go and talk to it to do whatever it is they need to do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give us a bit of a tour around the Power Virtual Agents app that there is there for Teams. And it's pretty similar to the full version of Power Virtual Agents if you've ever used that before. But difference here, it's embedded within Teams, and just within a few clicks, you can deploy your bot within Teams and get people using it. So there's some things here that are simplified for use within Teams. So the thing I was nervous about today was demoing my Dataverse for Teams environment, because if you've ever used this before, you've probably noticed that it hangs a lot and some bits take a long time to load. So I'm really hoping today that that doesn't happen, it doesn't crash. So keep your fingers crossed for me, but we'll see how we go. This morning I was testing it again and it seemed to be going pretty well, but yesterday it was hanging a bit. But that's just what happens with Dataverse for Teams. It is what it is. The experience is a lot better if you're using the Teams app rather than the browser, but I just got to do this in the browser because I'm in Teams at the moment. Alrighty, so first of all, if you want to go and find the Power Virtual Agents app, down here in Teams, you can just search for it, look for Power Virtual Agents. I've already got mine up here pinned to the side, so I can access it a bit easier. And over here in the chatbots area, we can see all the chatbots that we have in the teams that we are a member of. So the way that we create it is that down the side here, we will see all our teams that exist. And then each team is going to have its own set of chatbots that we've built. The one that I built for the demo today is this friendly guy called Helpdesk Henry. So I'm going to go ahead and open him, but you could, of course, go and create a new one from here as well. But I won't bore you through that whole process. It's a pretty simple, create a new chatbot, then you get the starting template here that you can see here. All right, so from the home area, what we can do is you have the test bot pane. You can go ahead and talk to your bot to test it out to see how it's working. Our topics in Power Virtual Agents are the scenarios that our bot has been set up to handle. So over here, I have only created one topic, and this is the ability for my bot to create help desk requests for people. If I wanted to expand this, I could also add in some other things. So Helpdesk Henry is helping my IT support team. Perhaps I might create some other topics of questions that come up quite often in my organization. Perhaps something like, how do I submit timesheets, or how do I use a particular system? So each of these things, the conversations, the scenarios people are going to come to the bot for, is what a topic is. You'll notice that there are these two different types of icons. So this one here is a system topic, which is already there for us. We can't turn these ones off, by the way, but you can modify it. So what I've done here is the way the bot greets someone. You can give it sort of its own personality here. You can change up the message that's there. You can see I put in like a, hi, I'm Helpdesk Henry to introduce it. So whatever these topics are that already come with it, you can customize these as you want to give your bot its own unique personality. I actually find that the most fun part of it. You can kind of create your own friend here with this. And over here is a topic I've created before, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you how we create a new one. So the first thing it's going to ask for are trigger phrases for this new topic that I want to create. So these are the things I'm expecting my employees to say to direct them to this conversation. So maybe if I created a topic for someone asking, how do I submit a timesheet? So in my trigger phrases, I can put down the keywords here that people might say. So let's say something like timesheets, how do I submit my time? Typically, you know, if you were deploying this, you would probably have about 5 to 10 trigger phrases there, using the type of words that your employees use to make sure that your bot is able to recognize that and direct them to the right conversation that we have here. I'll just leave it at 2 for now. And over here, how do I submit timesheets? Let me see. I should probably give that one a name as well. Just call it timesheets. There we go. So over here now, we can model out the conversation for the bot. So it could be simple, like a message you would like your bot to send back. So let's say you can log it in Dynamics. You can also do things like ask questions, add conditions, call actions. You can also end the conversation here with a survey too, if you wanted to get some feedback on the bot, on how the bot is performing. But I'll show you those other types of things in the other topic that I have set up here. So let's go ahead and save that. And we can also test it out at the side here as well. Let's say, how do I submit timesheets? And there we go. Just as simple as that. These topics, you can also turn them on and off, by the way. So these are some default ones that come there in the system just to sort of help you get started, but you can turn them off if you don't want them. All right, and over here is the Suggest Topics button, which is really handy if you have any existing content that you want to bring into your bot. So maybe if you have something like your FAQs somewhere on a website, or maybe some type of document, a PDF or a Word file, you can just grab the link to that. And then here in the Suggest Topic, what it does is that it can identify the question in that document and then bring through the answer for it as well, based on what you have written there. The downside of this, though, is at the moment, it only works on things that are public. You can access it publicly. So, you know, if you wanted to make like a internal FAQ page based on like a PDF you have on SharePoint, and I need a password to access that file, then you won't be able to use it in the Suggest Topics. Well, yet anyway, maybe there'll be a future soon enough for that. But if it is hosted publicly and it's online, people can go and access it, then you can just grab the link to it. And then what you get as a result is a topic for each question that's there and an answer for it. So it's sort of like a fast way to get all of your information into the bot. Our entities are the things that our bot has been trained to identify. So maybe if I wanted to go and grab, let's say someone's giving me a number, I want to be able to pick up on what that number is, or they're going to tell me an email address. The bot can recognize via these entities if something is an email address or not, or any of these other things here, like a number, a person's name, a phone number, state, temperature, URL, things like that. The analytics area gives you a Power BI report, which is embedded around the performance of your bot. So of course, go and check that out, because then you can see how people are using the bot, what's working, what isn't. So it gives you that feedback. You can easily go in and keep changing it. The publish area I'll show us a bit later. So once you've actually built your bot out here, you can hit publish, and then you have these different options on where you would like to share it out. But I'll bring those options up later for the next bot that I show you. Over here, you can also do things like change the name, give it its own icon as well, if you wanted to set up. All right, so next up, I'm going to show us a demo of a bot that I have built, and this one uses Dataverse for Teams. Let me know if you've used Dataverse for Teams before. I will go into like just a bit of an intro into what that is all about though. So this bot that I've created is one that you can have as an IT help desk bot. It allows people to go into Teams, talk to the bot, and submit a ticket for an issue that they have. These requests that get sent through are all getting stored in a table, Dataverse for Teams. So we'll create our own relational database within Teams where all of this is getting stored. So first of all, I'm going to show us Dataverse for Teams tables related to this. We'll create one where we can store all of these requests coming through. And it's a relational database, so we can create multiple tables and link them up together. So perhaps we might have another table, which is information about, let's say, all the different categories or the types of requests that we get. Starting with that, we can then build our Power Virtual Agent bot to go and interact with that data that we have there. So what we'll do is that we'll build a topic in Virtual Agents where employees can submit their ticket, and then they can see that get stored back in that Helpdesk request table that we've done. Based on that, there'll also be some process done with Power Automate, which will be to update that Dataverse record as well, and to also do something like submit the request that was posted into a Teams channel. And finally, if you did also want to build a Power App for it, it's quite easy to do as a way for people to interact with the Dataverse for Teams help submissions that come through. And also it could be something that your IT team is using to be able to handle all the requests that they're getting, sort of like a front end of that table to interact with the data. All right, so first of all, I'm just going to show you a demo of the bot working and what the end result looks like, and then we'll get in and I'll show you actually how it was built. All right, so I'm back here in Teams. So what I've done here is I've got my Helpdesk Henry sitting as an app here. People can find the app and pin it to the side here. They can also access it via the chat. So it sits there kind of like how you have your colleagues there you can talk to. So over here, I can go to the bot. I can say hello. Oops, I didn't spell that right, but it should understand it anyway, hopefully. And then once that's done, I can say I want to request a Helpdesk ticket. Actually, I might need to start over that one. I was in the middle of a convo there. Here we go. Hi, I'm Helpdesk Henry. I'm here to help you with any IT issues you may be having. What does your issue relate to? So over here, I have these categories I've set up, which are, different topics or different things my issue might be about. So let's say desktop. So now it's going to continue on with my conversation and then ask me some further questions about that. Eventually, it will happen. Let's give it another few seconds. If not, I'm going to switch. All right. Tell me more about your desktop related issues. So it's asking for some input here from me. So let's go ahead. What is it? Blue screen of death. So the next part here is it's going to take this information that I've given it. And what it's doing in the back end here is that it will go and create a ticket for it. So create a new record in that Dataverse for Teams table that I have. And what it's returned here is a unique ticket number for me. The other side of this is that it's also taken that information and you can see it's posted it into Teams for us. Of course, these actions could be whatever you want. I've tried it before with things like creating a task and planner. It could be send an email to someone. Basically, if you can build it with Power Automate, you can get your bot to do it. But just keep in mind, if you don't have the full version of Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, you of course wouldn't be able to use any of those premium connectors that are there. So, things like Salesforce or all those other things that you need the additional licensing for. But the Office apps are fine, like Teams, email, things like that. So we've got the bot working. This is the end result for it. I'm just going to show you the back end now of how this was created. So instead of going to the Virtual Agent app this time, I'm going to go to the Power Apps one. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is where you can, first of all, set up those Dataverse for Teams tables. Every team that you have, it acts like its own environment, its own Dataverse environment. So I only have one team listed here, but every team has its own set of Dataverse tables, flows, apps, chatbots that you built, and you can access them all here. So this is sort of like building out a solution for that Helpdesk Henry app that I've shown you here. So over here, of course, I've already built this out, but I'll show you what was done. I'll head over to the tables area, and I've created 2 tables in this case. First of all, I have one called issue category. You can just easily go and create a new table from here. And I'm just going to hit edit data. We have this simple interface for us to be able to create the table. You know, it's not as, I mean, how you create it in the full version of Dataverse, it is still simple, but this is a lot simpler than that. So, you know, if you want to add a new column to it, you can simply just click add new column, give it a name, and then we have all of these rich data types here that we can make use of. So for this particular table, I just listed down my categories of the issues that are there, as well as a description about it if I wanted to use that. Going back here, I'm just going to open up the Helpdesk request one, and this is where all of those requests are actually ending up and getting stored. So by the way, for Dataverse for Teams, the limit is 1 million records until you need to upgrade to the full version of Dataverse. So just keep that in mind if you're using it quite a bit. If you hit 1 million records, you're going to have to upgrade it to the full license for it. All right, so what I've got in this one here is that I've got a name of what the Helpdesk request is, a description, which actually links back to what that person typed into the bot. Every ticket has a status as well. So this was done using the choice column that you can use in your Dataverse for Teams, where you can have the set of options. The issue category one, this is a lookup column, and this is what is connecting it and relating it to that issue category column that I had before. So over here, it's going to link up to those ones that we had over there. Then we also have the ticket number. So this one's cool. It's like the auto number that you can do with Dataverse. So what I've done here is that typical, let me see it. So I've given it, I've told it what the prefix should be, how many digits. So every time someone submits a request, it will go and create this. And that was that number that returned here. I'm just going to stop and answer a few questions that we have. So first one, what are the limitations when creating a PVA chatbot with Teams as compared to Dataverse? All right, so the limitations would be not really compared to Dataverse, but more around where you can publish your bot. So if you're building your bot in Teams, like how I'm showing you, or I will show you here today, then that bot is only for people to access within Teams. You can use it within the Teams desktop app from the phone, but only within Teams. It's not its own standalone thing. And of course, it's only for your employees to use. But if you wanted to build Power Virtual Agents on the full license, which has its own full Dataverse environment there, then that's where you would need the premium license for it. So you would go to that when you want to be publishing your bot out to the other channels, things like social media, let's say Facebook, give it a voice, like a voice channel, put it on your own website. So yeah, it's more around where you want to use it. But I find for Teams, it's a good starting place for people, get people using it internally, see what you can do with it, and then perhaps upgrade if you wanted to distribute it to the wider audience out there. Question from Fernando, what's your experience with Dataverse for Teams that includes a solution regarding the 2 GB limit? I will admit I haven't reached that yet. So I don't use this as extensively to actually go and reach the limit there. So sorry, I couldn't give you any insight on that. I have been using it for a bot that I built internally for my colleagues to use, but I don't actually use Dataverse in the back end. So the bot is going off doing something else rather than interacting with data that I'm storing here. So yeah, I couldn't give you much insight on the limit that's there and reaching it because I'm yet to do that at this point. We'll see. We'll see soon enough. Maybe I might hit the limit. All right, so this is the table that we have for where all of those orders are getting stored. Where was the one we created earlier? Blue screen of death. There we go. So you can see it went through, it got stored in this table, it got put in with the submitted status, and it got allocated the ticket number as well. All right, so we got the Dataverse for Teams table. Next step, we now want to build the bots to connect to all of it. So actually go and talk between the two things. Back over in the Power Apps app, we can go and we can create a new chatbot directly from here too. I can see Helpdesk Henry. I'll go ahead and open him. And I'm going to show us the topic that I've set up regarding submitting that request and the flow that was built here. All right, so down here, where is it? Create Helpdesk request. I'm just going to close that so we have more space. So for my trigger phrases, I have things like I want to log a problem, I need IT help, my computer is broken. Sounds like you need some help. And then I have a question here. So in this case, it's going to present the user with these multiple choice options that I have set. You can change this though, depending on what you're expecting someone to say in response. So maybe if I had a question like, what is your email address? Which, by the way, you don't need to do for Teams. It already knows who the user is as they're logged in already. Or if you wanted to ask them like, what's the date of something, what's the number? So you would put in here whatever results you're expecting back from the user. So then it knows what to identify in the response. So your bot, it's smart. People don't need to type in word for word exactly what the bot is looking for. You know, as you're typing your response, you might have a bunch of other words in there. But with these entities and what we're setting up to identify, it knows what to look for in the response that someone gives them. Have some conditional branching there, but then it all comes back to the same point just so we can collect what the issue category is. I mean, typically you might have maybe like a different table or a different response based on what the category is about, but this is just a simple one where the conversation is very straightforward. But of course, you can have whatever branching and different turns in the conversation that you need. Another question here, tell me more about your related issue. So this here is inserted via a variable. The issue category, of course, is going to use whatever word the person responded with for that previous question. And since it's in Teams, you can also use things like the user's name and then their ID as well. You probably wouldn't use that in the conversation, but that's useful for when you're building Power Automate flows to go and recover more information about that person who submitted it. So in this case, it's going to listen to whatever my comments are here, my entire response, and save that as the description of my issue. So then the flow is really where it all happens. At this point, it's just really collected the information, but it hasn't sent it off to Dataverse yet. So call and action is where we can bring in our Power Automate flows so we can get our bot to go and do things for us. So this is one that I've created a course before, and I'll go and open this one up so we can take a look at it. With our flows with Power Virtual Agents, we will always start off with this trigger from Power Virtual Agents. You can see I've added here inputs, and that relates to that information that my bot collected. Like what was the issue category? What was the description of it? Who requested it, if I wanted to bring that into my flow. Since there's information I want to use in my flow, we've added it as inputs here. Simply just by typing in the name of what it is, we do the linking up part of it afterwards. Then over here, we have the Dataverse add a new row action, and you can see it's connected to my Dataverse for Teams table. So you might be thinking, I'm not on premium, how can I use the Dataverse connector? You can use it if you're connecting to your Dataverse for Teams tables, but you know, wouldn't be able to use any other of the full version ones if you don't have that. So over here, basically is I'm filling in that information here as dynamic content into the flow. So my name of the issue is going to be issue width, and it will use that issue category I selected in the conversation as part of it. It will also fill in those comments I have about the description here too. Any other things I wanted to fill in automatically as well, of course, I could do this here. And I want to make the ticket status as submitted. So the next action here is this other one, which is return values to Power Virtual Agents. All the flows you build with virtual agents will always have that trigger and this return values thing. You might notice this is always at the end, but you can actually move it up in the flow. And tip for that is because you don't need to then wait for the flow to run until you can start talking to it again. So a good tip here is to have your flow, make it do the actions it needs to do before someone can start talking to it again. So in this case, it's going to go and create the ticket. It's going to then recover the automatic ticket number that was created and then send that back to the user. The thing my user doesn't need to wait for is to go and post this as a Teams message because that's not really relevant to them. So I've added it at the bottom here. And in this case, what I've done is I've used the Microsoft Teams post message in a chat or a channel, linked it up to my Helpdesk team and added a message using the dynamic content of that particular message that we have. So taking a step back here, what you do for the next step is you link up those inputs from Power Automate that you set up to these variables that you have over in virtual agents. So issue category, I had it as an input on my flow, and issue category, I'm just saying that it should link up to this one here. So this is what does the talking between the two things, so it knows where to send off the information. And then finally, we've added in that output that I got from Power Automate, which was that ticket number, which we can then use throughout the flow since it was an output of what our flow was. All right, so that is the topic that we've set up. Maybe I'll give it another test actually. So let's say I want to say applications, can't log into Teams. And then once again, we can see it's gone. It will go and send off that Teams message and given me that ticket number in return. All right, so we've looked at the Dataverse for Teams tables, the Power Virtual Agent, the Power Automate flow. So now the next part is what this looks like for the person on the other side of it. So you'll notice actually that in my message here, I've said that we'll notify you once our team is working on the issue. So this is the next part that I'm going to show you guys. But before that, I might just go into the publishing options of your bot first. This one I've already published, but once you build your bot and you want people to start using it, then over here you have a few different options on how you can distribute it. So what you can click, make your bot available to others in the team. So over here, if you want to edit the details, you can give it a bit of an intro so people can find it, they know what it is, change the icon as well. And let me hit cancel there. I'm just going to go into the availability options. All right, so by default, everyone in the team you created the bot with will have access to it. So you can share the link with them, which is kind of like how you might share a link to a document and people can open it. It's a bit like that. You can also show it in the App Store in Teams, which is a good way for people to discover it. So there are these two sections in the App Store. There's the built by your colleagues and also by everyone in your organization. So what this looks like is over in your Teams app, a user coming into it will see, I have this built in my organization section. So it makes it discoverable for people in my organization to go and use, regardless of what their permissions are or whatever there. For this though, you need to submit your bot for admin approval. So once you've created your bot, it will just get escalated to your Teams admin and then they can go and approve the bot from there. Every time you make changes to the bot then will need to go in and be approved. But the good thing about this is that it's like an organization-wide app. Anyone can go, they can open it up from here. I've already added it in, and then they can add it to their team and pin it to the side like I've done there. The other alternative is that you might also have just send it off to be built by your colleagues. So people who have access to the bot, if it's shared with them, they'll be able to find it in the section called built by your colleagues. So if you didn't want to go through, like the whole admin approval or anything like that, you can submit it here without needing that approval, where people can go and find the bot to open it, or their Power Apps for that matter as well, like I have here. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead here. I put in some screenshots here, by the way, that I'm going to skip over. These were my backup in case if the demo failed, but it's being nice to me today, and we don't need this. All right, so far I've shown us how we can talk to the bot to log the ticket. Yes, the demo gods are being nice to me today. How we can log the ticket, it gets sent in Teams and it updates that Dataverse table that we have there as well. So the next part of it was that in the chat, I've said here that our bot is going to notify you once the team is working on the issue. So this is something else that I'll set up to be triggered with Dataverse. So over on the Dataverse table, if you recall, the ticket could have a status on it. It could have been submitted, in progress, or it's completed. So every time these values change, if my ticket is submitted, and if, let's say, my IT help desk person changes it to the status of in progress, that's going to go and send me a proactive message in Teams. So this is, I'll just skip ahead here, one of the newer features that I quite like. So I think this is a few months old now, the ability for your bot to proactively send someone a message. So you can use the bot as a way to sort of send out like a notification to everyone, let them know when their ticket has been updated. And of course, it stays contained in that same bot conversation that you have there. So for the proactive messaging, this is done using a flow that you build in Teams. And there's an action there that you can connect to your bot and get it to send the message. So I'm going to show us the flow that I've set up in this case. Once again, create it in the Power Apps area where you have all of those other components you've built as well, so that it's contained in that same environment or that same team. If you build the flow in another team, your bot won't be able to find it or talk to it. So just make sure that you go to the same one. You can create a new cloud flow, and that's how you would set it up from here. But this is the one I've done here. Notify when there's a, there we go. I think I jinxed it with the demo gods. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. Cloud flows, notify on Helpdesk. Okay. So since this one, it's going to be triggered based on that request changing its status. So I've started off with my trigger connected to that table once again for Helpdesk requests. In this case, it's looking at the change type. It's my record is going to be updated. And I've filtered it to my column for the ticket status as well, because that's the only column I want to keep a watch of whether or not it's been changed. Down here, I have a condition. So it's going to look at my ticket status column is equal to number 2. So by the way, number 2, that links back to that choice that I had here. I'll probably go back to it on another screen just to show you again. But the ticket status column in Dataverse, I set up as a choice. Every choice has an allocated number, which you can find. And the status of in progress links to the number 2 that's there. I'll show you where you can go and find that number, by the way. In the case it gets changed to in progress, I'm first of all going to go and obtain some details about the person who submitted the request. So over here, I've added in another Dataverse action, which is getting the row from the user table, just so I can look up the user and find who created that particular record in the first place, or row, I should say now, since Microsoft likes to change their names. So over here, I'm doing this just so I know who I should send that message to via the bot. So then down here, this is where we have the proactive messaging. So now in your flows, in the post a message in a chat or channel actions, you have the option to post as Power Virtual Agents. So then you would select your bot. Over here, I've put in the recipient, which is the email address I've got from my user from the previous action. And then I've just filled in some info about that particular ticket as well to send them via the message. So by the way, before I go and I test this out, I'll just show you where you can find those column choices if you're interested. So over in your tables, it's sort of just like the full version of Dataverse, how you can go and you can find your tables there. Sorry, your columns and their IDs there. So what do we want? We want the Helpdesk request one. I'll open that up. And I might just change that. So custom, I'm just going to go to my ticket status column that I created. That's that unique name there that I used in the flow. Then down here, if you do edit choice, you can see my choices that I had set up. If you just click view more, you'll be able to see that number that each one links to. So that's what you would do if you want to get your flows to interact with the choice columns that you set up. You just got to make sure you get that number. All right, so let's test it out now. So let's say I've gone and I've submitted my ticket. Let's say on the other side of things, I'm now my person in the IT team. I work on the support desk. I'm now looking at this ticket and I want to move it into the status of in progress. So what I've done here is I've actually just quickly created a Power App for it, which is very simple, by the way. If you just go into your Dataverse and if you click New App, I might do it now actually if it doesn't crash. So of course you can customize this however you want. Say ticket version 2. I created another one before, I just don't want to mess it up. So the app isn't completely necessary. I've just sort of created this as a front end just to show you if I was someone going and interacting with the data. So let's say with data, and let me just say my Helpdesk request table. The app here, I can modify it however I want. It is a Power App at the end of the day. But what this does is that just by clicking that, I already have that app ready for me, which I can take further if I wanted to. But then what I can do, I can simply just publish it to Teams, and then it will be sitting there in a channel for me to go and access. Of course, there is more security and things like this you could put around it as well, but we're not building a Power App today, we're building a virtual agent. But just to show you how quickly you can do that if you wanted to. All right, so over in Teams now, that app, there's the one that I just did, which is the same as the one I had before. So this could be a way for your end users to interact with the requests that come through. Where's the one I did before, the blue screen of death one? There we are. So you can see at the moment it's in the status of submitted. If I come in, let's say I'm working on this now, I might go ahead and change that to in progress and save that. So what we will get as an end result is my bot now is going to go and tell me that my ticket is in progress. Let's see, might take some time to come through. I'm going to go ahead, wait here for it to come in. So while that's running, the next thing that I'm going to show you guys is the other last thing that I had, which is around using your bot inside a channel. So you can have it sitting there like it's another team member you can call on at any time once it's there. I might come back and check on this to see when that one runs. Question there from Fernando, are PVA bots multilingual in Teams? So no, it's the same as with the full version of Power Virtual Agents. You can have a bot, but you have to allocate it a specific language though. So you have one bot for one language. You can't have a bot that speaks multiple languages, unfortunately. So when you go and you set up the bot, you specify the language from that point. You would have to create multiple ones to work across different languages. Question again, is there a path for upgrade for Teams version to full Dataverse? Yes, good question. There is. So what you can do is you might be using like Dataverse for Teams, starting off with that. Once you find that you reach capacity, you can upgrade to the full license from there, and then it all would carry over. So it's not like you got to set up anything new or anything like that. So when you upgrade, like the limits will be expanded, you'll have access to all the premium features. So it's like a seamless upgrade path that they've created. Right, so I'm going to show us the other thing now, which is the newer feature around how you can mention the bot in a channel. So what you can do is over in the publishing options for your Power Virtual Agent in Teams, you'll notice now that there's this option to add it to a team. So I've added it to my Helpdesk team that I have. So what this means is that at any point, I can come to this channel and talk to the bot, like how I might be talking to a colleague. So the bot, of course, is going to run through these conversations that we have set up. So maybe if I'm coming and I want to get my help on something, I could say I would mention my bot. What's his name? Helpdesk Henry. He would come up like my colleagues would come up. And let's say I want to report an issue. So the other great thing about this, by setting up a bot this way, is I'm sure if you're using Teams, you probably get a lot of people perhaps asking questions, maybe where something is located, how do I do something? You can let people know that there's a bot for that. They can mention the bot to be able to get that information as well. So over here, it's going to run through that conversation. So I can have that same conversation here. But of course, just keep in mind that this one is going to be public for everyone in the team to be able to see. What does your issue relate to? Let's say, what haven't I tried yet? Say mobile. And we'll run through the same thing again. I need, oh, by the way, you have to mention Helpdesk Henry every time you reply to it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So let's say, need a new one. So it will do the same thing here, run through it, and then be able to answer it. Or it could be something like, you can start this again, let's say Helpdesk Henry. How do I submit timesheets? Hopefully it recognizes that. Yeah, it didn't. That was because I didn't set up enough trigger phrases on that timesheet one that I did quickly. But you get the idea. Whatever the topics are, people can essentially have the conversation here as well. And the other good thing about this is that if you might be talking to other people in a Teams chat, in a Teams channel, and maybe if you needed help from the bot to bring in, then you can just call on the bot at any time. So I think the very first demo of this was done. When was the last Business Application Summit, those events that they have? I think it was probably back in November last year. So they did a demo of this. I think their example was for an airline, like a channel that was being used. I can't remember which airline it was, to manage information about the flights that they have. So they had a channel in Teams dedicated to that. They would have a bot that was able to look up the flight status. So what they would do is they would mention the bot, and they would tell what flight they're after, and then the bot can go and search for the information for them. Yeah, Mahir, probably a good idea to keep it short then with the names if you're going to be calling on them all the time. Oh, and before I finish, I think we got a bit more time, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yep. Just want to show you guys another bot that I've built, that I've been using, that I built for my colleagues at work at Barhead. So this one, it uses, not this one here, I should probably change the screen. It's around the proactive bot messaging. So I built this bot called Merlin, which is, let me bring him up. A bot that I've set up for my colleagues to use as a way to keep people informed on like new features to do with Power Platform and Dynamics 365. So, you know, we're a consulting company. We want to make sure everyone is up to date on what the latest and greatest is. So I've built a bot to keep people informed on all of this. It's built a similar way. So it was built in Dataverse, sorry, in Teams, but this one doesn't actually use Dataverse tables. All this one does is that I've created my topics, like my greeting. I can say hello to it. So over here, we'll go through my introduction I've set up. And his purpose at the moment is to connect to all of the Microsoft blogs that are there around Power Platform Dynamics, as well as my colleagues and myself some content as well, so we can share that. So what it does is that every time a new blog is posted on any of these things, it goes and it sends a notification to someone here. So I'm just going to scroll up so you can see what's going on. So as soon as, let's say, Microsoft write a new blog about Power Apps, let's say a new feature is introduced, everyone who has the bot will get a notification like this, which has a link with the heading of the blog post and a summary of it as well. So I've created this as a good way to keep people informed on what's going on out there. So just to look at the flow that's built on that. So in this case, it's looking at when an item is published in that feed for the blog post. This action here around listing group members, was what I've done as a way to make sure the bot sends the message out to everyone rather than just a particular person. So in this case, it's going to look at everyone who's in a particular Microsoft team and then send the message out to them if they have the bot installed. There is a better way you can do this, which is send it out to everyone in your tenant, but you need admin access to be able to do that. So this is my workaround way. It will look at everyone who's a member of a team that I have access to. And then simply each person, it's going to do that same thing of having the post a message in the chat with the bot. And then the content, of course, is going to be what's that feed is, the info that was there. So that's something that I've done recently. And I really like this bot. It's actually really good. It keeps people informed. The moment something drops, like everyone knows straight away. All right, so we had some questions throughout the session, but that's really all that I had planned to show you guys. So I'm just going to keep it open here in case if we have any final things you might have thought of, any thoughts. I'll just stay quiet for a bit in case if we have anyone who wants to say anything. Thanks, Fernando. Love that GIF. That one's cute.
Yes, I have a comment, Rishona.
Yep.
I don't find the documentation, but I read that it's very important. I don't remember how they titled this topic, but it's about ethics in Power Virtual Agents when you need to straight away tell the user that it's a robot, that it's not a person, and it's limited to the answers that they can provide, and etc. Right?
Yes, you are exactly right. I should have actually done that in my bot. It's a good idea for your bot at the start. Probably put it in the greeting. Say something like, "Hi, I'm a bot." Actually, I think my Merlin bot does that. Yeah, because what it does, people interact with it a lot nicer if they know that it's a bot rather than they're expecting it's a person that they're talking to on the other end. Yeah, so what I did for this one, for example, is, "Hi, I'm a bot." I think I also had something like, "I'm still learning." Yeah, just to let people know that, you know, I might not be perfect yet, but I'm improving my skills. So it just helps with, you know, usability. People don't get that angry at the bot if it doesn't answer the question that they want then.
Right, thanks.
Any other comments, thoughts?
So
Otherwise,
yeah, sorry,
go ahead.
I guess the good thing about this is free, right? If you have Teams license, then you don't have to pay anything. It's not like the $1,000 you pay for the PVA licensing.
Exactly. That's the great thing about it. So, typically if it is free to go and try and use virtual agents. You got to pay, of course, if you want to deploy the bot. But yeah, for this, it makes it easier for people to find and use since it is already in Teams, which people are using. And yeah, no additional licensing as well with what I've shown you if you don't have any of that. So you just need your Teams account, then you're good to go.
Okay, that's great.
And if that's all, then I just want to thank everyone for coming along to this session. I got to make sure I come along to more NYC user group sessions now. This is the first time I've been to one and presented at it, but I'm looking forward to more. Looking forward to attending some other ones that you have in the future as well. So thank you so much for inviting me and having me a part of it today.
Okay, thanks a lot. Arun, you want to just do the closing?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Yep.
See.
Rishona, yeah. Absolutely right. This was a great demo and session. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to join our future events in NYC. You're always.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah, before we wrap up, right? I believe this was interactive. Thanks, Fernando, for keeping this interactive and nice questions me here. I don't think we have more questions. We'll jump onto that. Yeah, like we mentioned our last few meetups, right? We were transitioning this to the Power Platform user group. We sent invites and we have 50 members already signed up. We are looking forward for all of our members to move forward with a new migration step. You can take a picture of the QR code on the screen so you can navigate directly to the Power Platform user group on the community side. Looking forward. And last month, Microsoft published the Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform release plan 1 for 2022 wave 1. I believe most of us are going through that long document. Please navigate to the Microsoft Docs website to learn about the upcoming changes and how you can use them within your environments for your learning and your betterment of your client implementations. We are still working on details for the next events, and we'll be sharing that information within the groups. We have multiple groups. As soon as we lock the speakers and date, the plan is to do a review of some of the features of 2022 Wave 1 release, like we did last year also. We are looking forward for hearing your inputs and seeing if you have any subjects that you're interested in learning about or even presenting. Feel free to step up. Okay, thank you, Rishona. This is a great session. I believe my colleagues, right, Eric, Mihir, and Aaron will join us to give accolades for you. Okay, thank you, Rishona.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I dropped off there for a moment. I hope I didn't miss anything. But yes, thanks, and thank you so much for inviting me as well.